Hello, everybody. I'd like to welcome you to today's Dynamics 365 Tech Talk. Today's topic is Electronic Invoicing for Dynamics 365. My name is AJ and I'll be your moderator today. We are broadcasting this session through Teams Live Events, and the audio can be heard through your device speakers. This session is being recorded on behalf of the Microsoft Corporation. When you join this event, your name, email address, and/or phone number may be viewable by other session participants in the attendee list. By joining, you are agreeing to this experience. The recording will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. If you have questions for the presenters or need support, please use the Q&A panel located on the right side of your screen. Our presenters will be responding to your questions throughout the presentation. Thank you for your patience during these announcements. Presenting for us today from Microsoft, we have Gilberto Onodarat, Senior Program Manager, Marek Roleski, Principal PM Manager, and Dmitry Kaluzhny, Principal Engineering Manager. Gilberto, over to you.
Okay, thank you, AJ. Morning, good afternoon, everybody. So you're welcome to this presentation. So I will start showing you the agenda for today. So we want to make a quick overview about what is electronic invoicing service. We want to present you what's new and make a short demo of the new features. We want to show you the upcoming features, and we will finish with a quick question and answer session. So making a quick introduction here, just remember we had already a first Tech Talk session about electronic invoicing. It was made in February. So please feel free to join the community and watch the recording of that first session. So first, let's give you a context for and the motivation for the electronic invoicing service. So electronic invoicing is nowadays is a regulatory trend which was mostly made to prevent tax evasion. Globally, estimations says that 20 or from 20 to 30% of collection taxes have problems with tax evasion. So, and electronic invoicing is already a reality in many countries around the world. So such as Brazil, Italy, Mexico, and more. And the European Union has a goal to make the electronic invoicing predominant invoicing method for all companies. The electronic invoicing started as B2G business to government scenario, but nowadays is being expanded and also is fulfilling the business to business scenario in a growth market. So today there are more than 500 billions of invoices issued globally. Around 65 billion they are electronically, totalizing a 12% of market penetration. So when it comes to electronic invoicing, most of the companies, they have to deal, even during implementation and operation, they have to deal with two conflicting demands, right? From one side, they need to deal with a variety of formats, architectures, technologies, level of maturities across the countries, and especially if the electronic invoice is driven by the government. So this is a mandatory compliance. So not compliance sometimes is not an option, and of course they need to face the agility to comply, right? So from time to time, governments update the legislation and modify certain aspects of the electronic invoice, and then company needs to have the necessary agility to comply with those changes. In another hand, especially global companies, they want to operate globally and scale, right? So they also want to optimize investments across multiple countries and regions to fulfill the electronic invoicing requirements. So, I mean, not investing redundantly across the countries to attend this. And of course, they want to simplify the management of system integration. So the electronic invoicing aims to bring to propose a balance to meet those two different kind of demands. So then, what electronic invoicing service does? First is a cloud service for issuing and receiving electronic invoices. For issuing, it supports a variety of electronic invoice formats to comply with local regulations from several countries. It integrates with tax authorities' web services for granting electronic authorization or approval. This is a common requirement when we talk electronic invoices driven by the government. And for receiving, it also supports a variety of electronic invoicing formats, and it also integrates with Office and SharePoint to automatically receive electronic invoices. So, and what are the main capabilities? So, electronic invoice is a worldwide cloud service available in multiple data center geographies. So nowadays is deployed to United States, Europe, UK, and Asia. But if necessary, we can deploy to more regions. Okay. It's out-of-box integration with Microsoft Dynamics 365 Finances, supply chain, and project operations. It is available only for cloud installations. And electronic invoicing also has a set of features which are common, independent on the country or region, right? So you can, for example, issue and receive electronic invoices for different countries and regions. You can integrate with Office, email accounts, and SharePoints for integration with folders. You can store your data on your Azure storage account and your secrets and digital certificates on your Azure Key Vault. You can manage access and permissions. You can manage the electronic invoice format itself, and you can manage the life cycle of the configuration formats. And for the specific parts of that needs to be fulfilled, the electronic invoice allows you can use the out-of-box configurable invoicing formats, now available for 13 countries plus PayPal format. You can, of course, configure and customize the electronic invoice formats for the countries that we are supporting. This is the list plus PayPal. You can generate invoice formats as XML and JSON formats. You can sign the electronic invoice with digital certificates, and you can electronically communicate with tax authority web services for granting approval. And you can customize and create new electronic invoice formats depends according to your needs and requirements. Okay, so for a more detailed view about the electronic invoicing, so I'm going to transition to my colleague Dimitri.
Thank you, Gilberto. Hello, everybody. So to start with the details of electronic invoicing, first of all, we need to review what are the main components that participate in the operations related to electronic documents generation or electronic invoice generation and submission. First of all, probably some of you already know there is a functionality, a so-called regulatory configuration service. This regulatory configuration service is the tool set or is the platform for designing electronic reporting formats and designing the process how these generated electronic invoices will be processed and submitted to external web services and external channels, as well as it is possible to design the process how electronic invoicing service will listen to external channels like emails and SharePoints and process incoming documents. To operate with this configurable setup of electronic invoice structures and electronic documents processing, these structures are stored as actually as configuration as XML files in global repository managed by Microsoft. As Microsoft, we ship out of the box some templates per countries. And these templates of the configurations are available already in Globalization repository, as well as you as partners or customers. As soon as you create these configurations, you will store them in the global repository. And if you want, you can share them here with other partners or customers. The next point or the next main component, as Gilberto mentioned already, these are Azure resources fully managed by you, like Key Vault and storage account. Key Vault is needed for storing secrets and certificates that are used in some of the scenarios, like digital signing or during establishing of trusted connection to external web services, as well as storage account, that is the main storage managed by you for all documents that are generated, electronic documents that are generated by electronic invoicing service, or that come to electronic invoicing service either from your billing system, from ERP, from F&O in our case, or from external systems like from external web services or SharePoint or Mailbox. Then electronic invoicing operates with F&O, and there is a certain steps to set up on both F&O side and electronic invoicing side to make this connection. And as it is already mentioned, that electronic invoicing can integrate with SharePoint, Mailbox, and external web services, but it is not limited because we are working on extending these capabilities of integration with other channels and much more external web services. In the next slide, we will start looking into some details. The first thing that I want to reiterate probably and describe in a more details the component that is related to regulatory configuration service and particularly to electronic reporting formats. Electronic reporting functionality is available in F&O for quite a while. And here we reuse this functionality for the purposes of creation and defining the structure of electronic formats. And now we support JSON, XML, TXT, and CSV files of these electronic files. And one of the very important things here is the possibility to define the validation rules for the structure that allows you to do certain calculations on the document level that will result in either success validation or error validation before you submit the document, electronic document or electronic invoice further. To work with the final country-specific formats or the formats that you need in your business-to-business scenarios, we support conversion to the formats from unified structure that is called actually that is based on UBL structure and comes to electronic invoicing service from F&O. And this conversion can be done actually both ways, when you export the document or when you import external document. The system will be able to convert the files from one structure to another. Also, we are working on supporting UBL structure, UBL invoice that is possible to use as an import and export structure in the electronic invoicing service. Besides of that, electronic invoicing service has other capabilities like supporting of multiple languages in the, for example, invalidation rules, and has some technical stuff for tracing of the performance and debugging it, and it is possible to package multiple files generated within electronic reporting to zip archive. This is the part that is related to particular electronic files, but on the next slide you can see that the second main component here in the electronic documents interchange processes is the steps that are performed with the generated file. As an example here, you can see that there can be several steps. These steps we call actions, and all the actions are combined into so-called processing pipeline. So besides the generation of the file, in most of the cases and scenarios, you will need to do certain steps with these files. And with regulatory configuration service, it is possible not only to use actions and processing pipelines provided by Microsoft as templates, but create your own pipelines reusing these actions in the and building the process that will satisfy your business requirements. We provide some predefined sets of these actions, and you can play around setting up each action's behavior and draw such process. Quickly reviewing this one as an example, we can see that business data in unified structure will come from F&O during submission of the document to an electronic invoicing service, or calling electronic invoicing service with the ask to perform generation and submission of your invoice. The next step here in this example is generate electronic file action that actually understands to what format incoming data should be converted and picks necessary latest format, electronic reporting format, to do this transformation of the document. A resulted file is stored then to Azure storage. And the same file then goes to the next action that is responsible for digital signature that sets a stamp with a secret or certificate stored in the key vault, in your key vault. The next step can be a submission to external web service, and then the results can be processed by the action that is responsible for processing of the response from external web services. And for processing, we also use electronic reporting configurations to provide flexibility in no-code setup and development of this process, where on the configuration you can define what to do with the particular response from web service and do certain actions further. In this diagram, one of the next actions here is just sending the file through email to predefined mail address. Just to summarize that processing pipeline, this is the way you describe how electronic invoicing service should work and what it should do with the incoming financial data. Besides of that, all the submission results are returned back to F&O client. And depending on the setup on F&O side, corresponding tables and records, for example, journals, can be updated with certain information that will be sent back to your F&O, as well as in F&O, you can see the, or you can download the files generated here during processing pipeline execution. The next thing is how submission logging works on F&O, and on the next slide, there are few screenshots, but we will see that in F&O as well during our demo. There is quite a rich set of information that you can get from your submission process. On the right side, there is an example that is also configurable in terms of number of the columns and information that can be brought here without necessity to develop anything. You will see all the submissions that you have done and details of the submissions or statuses of the submissions to the service. On the left side, this is example. If you go to the details of one of the submissions, you can see details per each action. And it is very important that at each action, you can get the error messages if they occur there to understand what were processed successfully and what messages were completed, what actions were completed with any errors. And you can see output and input results of each action to do analysis if it is needed for you to understand what is going on with the processing pipeline. Besides of that, if we go to the next slide, we can see that the process of defining all these rules and all these components can be considered, can be seen quite a complex one from the very beginning. But to simplify the whole process, we have introduced the life cycle management for the whole processing and for the whole submission of electronic invoices. But to describe this in more details, we need to get familiar with some conceptual things. First of all, we have introduced a new concept that is called globalization feature. This globalization feature, in fact, is some kind of a container that has all the artifacts that allows you to build the proper pipeline, the proper processing, and using proper formats. So usually, feature consists of electronic reporting configurations that take part in the process, as well as processing pipeline that describes how the service operates. We, as Microsoft, provide a set of such features per specific countries with some predefined parameters and predefined ER configurations. We release as Microsoft provider. You can import these electronic invoicing features to your instance of regulatory configuration service and build your feature that will be done already under your configuration provider with necessary changes if you need that. For example, you can specify some additional parameters, or you can adjust your configurations if it is necessary, or pipelines. As soon as you have done the changes, you can either publish to global repository and share it with other partners and customers if you want, or you will be publishing that to electronic invoicing service, as we call it, deploy to electronic invoicing service. In this case, at this step, electronic invoicing service will know what it is and how it should operate in the particular scenario. And besides of the overall life cycle here, we support versioning of these features and data effectiveness. There can be multiple features in electronic invoicing service with multiple versions. And there is a concept of the so-called context and applicability rules that I will show you in more details during demo. But the idea is that on the vendor side, you define a set of parameters like pairs of key value that describes some details of particular or provide some metadata for particular electronic invoice. For example, it can be some legal entity, country ISO code, type of the document, or even customer group. And if this set of parameters matches correctly with the parameters on the feature level, then particular feature, globalization feature, will execute. But that steps we will review quickly during our demo. And now I return back the stage to Gilberto.
Thank you, Dimitri. So, moving forward, what is new? So, in April, we released electronic invoicing service and the configuration for Egypt. In this release, we release more 12 countries, the configuration for more 12 countries: Austria, Belgium, Brazil, Denmark, Estonia, Finland, France, Germany, Italy, Netherlands, Norway, and Spain, plus the formats for PEPL, right, which many countries, even outside Europe, adopt the standard of PEPL. And we also are releasing the receiving vendor invoice, capability to receive vendor invoice either from email accounts as well from SharePoint folders. So now let's play a short demo, and then next Dimitri will make another demo as well. In this scenario, I will demonstrate the electronic invoicing for Brazil, right? So just giving some little bit of context. So in my scenario, Contoso plans to start a new operation in Brazil for selling goods. In this case, Contoso needs to prepare a new legal entity, and this new legal entity needs to comply with the local legislation, meaning that it needs to be prepared to issue the Brazilian electronic invoice, which is called Nota Fiscal Eletrônica, or simply NFE, which is a mandatory requirement for trade operations. In case of Brazil, the electronic invoice is a mandatory requirement. It is a kind of electronic invoice that needs to be sent to the government web services to approval or rejection, right? And the operation can only proceed with the government operation from these web services, and failure to comply with this requirement, or meaning not issuing an NFE, is illegal and exposes Contoso to several tax fine, to a severe tax fine in case of tax auditing. So those are the stories. So the first story is Arnie's story. He's the account receivable administrator. So he wants to prepare its legal entity to comply with the Brazilian electronic invoice, NFE. He doesn't need to know very much detail about what NFE does, but he knows the overall requirement, which is basically it's necessary to generate an XML file. This XML for the electronic invoice format for Brazil is pretty much standard across the country, but there are possibilities to make some small customizations in case of need. This XML file must be digitally signed. This is another requirement. And once the XML is digitally signed, it must be sent to the government web services, which is going to process and granting either approval or rejection in case of some inconsistency in the file. So, and Arnie, of course, knows that he must comply with this because this is a mandatory requirement in the country. And the second story is the accounts receivable clerk. It's simply going to show you how the clerk who operates the issuing of electronic invoice will do this. For the clerk, the only thing that he expects is simply issue the electronic invoice and view the status if it was approved or rejected. Okay. So then now let's go to RCS. Second. So now I am Arnie. I am on RCS. Okay, and I want to prepare my legal entity to issue the Brazilian electronic invoice. So as Arnie, I simply go to globalization feature. I go to electronic invoice. If this my first time, then I go here. So I can simply import my Brazilian electronic invoice format from the global repository as Dimitri showed. So in this case, I have already imported here to my RCS instance. And once I have imported, then I create a local version of this feature, right? Based on the feature that I have just imported here. And then I have here my feature already created. So in this page, Arnie can manage all aspects of the electronic invoicing feature for Brazil, right? In the first step, he manages the life cycle, right? He controls the status of the electronic invoicing feature. In this case, my feature is in draft. If Arnie wants to view or customize something in the layout of the Brazilian electronic invoice, he simply can go here on the form itself. So this is one of the things that come ready and ready to consume from the global repository. And then Arnie can use here the format designer, and if necessary, Arnie can customize or modify anything that he wants or need in case of need. But the format comes pretty much ready for usage in the electronic invoicing. And the second thing that Arnie needs to do is to review the parameterization of the feature. If for those who knows a little bit about the Brazilian invoice, NFE, here we have several NFE events. So the first one is the most important event, which is the one who effectively generate the Brazilian invoice, signs, sends to the government. So Arnie simply needs to review this configuration here. He needs to make just a last mile configuration before starting use. So one of the things that he needs to do is first, he needs to tell to this pipeline actions, which is going to be the digital certificate that is going to be used to sign the file. In this case, this digital certificate needs to be uploaded in the key vault for a Contoso company, right? And Arnie simply needs to review the URL of the web service the government web service who is going to process this electronic invoice. Okay. So apart from that, so this is the sequence of actions that is going to generate the electronic invoice. And also Arnie needs to review the applicability rules in case something needs to be adjusted, right? Something like, for example, the legal entity ID of the company, but and the state where the electronic invoice is going to be issued, but everything is pretty much done here. So then once Arnie review all the steps, so Arnie simply change the status to complete. This case. And then publish, which is going to save this version of the electronic invoice in the global repository. And in the last action, and in the last action, Arnie will publish, it will deploy this electronic invoicing to the electronic service, to the electronic invoicing environment. So he just tell which service environment he wants and then click. By doing this, Arnie is ready to go. The configuration is done, and his FNO is ready to start issuing electronic invoice. So let's see, for example, how is going to be the accounts receivable clerk experience, for example. So now I have some screenshots here. So now I am on FNO, right? I am on the Brazilian legal entity. So the accounts receivable clerk already posted a Brazilian invoice. So this is a view of the Brazilian invoice. Notice its status is created. So then Arnie will go to a specific form, which is common for all countries, for submitting this invoice to the electronic invoicing service. Notice that it can be run either explicitly or, if necessary, can run in background. So the clerk or Arnie can schedule a batch to keep running this from time to time. But let's say that the clerk wants to run explicitly for this Brazilian invoice. And then when he hits OK, the process starts, meaning that FNO is sending the data of the Brazilian invoice to the electronic invoicing service. The service is processing, generating the file, signing, communicating with the web services, with the Brazilian tax authority web services, and get the response. In this case, for example, when the response comes, the services updates the status of the Brazilian invoice in the table. Now, for example, the clerk can see, okay, my invoice was approved. And if the clerk wants to see more details about this processing, so there is a specific form in FNO where the clerk can navigate. He can go there, select the invoice, click in submission details, and then the clerk will see the detailed submission. So in this case, he can view the execution log for all steps from the pipeline action. The last one in this case is the one who says what is the final processing status. In this case, message error 100 returned from the tax authority web service means the NFE was approved. And in case the clerk wants to see, okay, I want to view the file which was generated. In the same form, in the same submission for details, he simply mark the action who generate and signed the file. Actually, the first one generate, the second action assign the file, and by simply click on view, the clerk can view the file. So this is the final file generated by the Brazilian invoice. Okay. Okay, moving forward now, I'm going to transition to Dimitri, who is going to make a demonstration for Fatura PA.
Yes, thank you, Gilberto. And the next presentation will be devoted to the scenario when you need to import electronic invoice via email to FNO. And in this case, we will review as an example Fatura PA Italian document. The process will look like that some email with this XML attached comes to your mailbox, and electronic invoicing service can read mails from this box and then pass this file for further processing and mapping to the FNO data structure directly in FNO. And also based on that, create pending vendor invoice. I will show all the steps in details, starting from actually setup of regulatory configuration service and show you how the setup looks like on FNO. Let's start with the document. What I want to send through email this example of Fatura Pay electronic document. I have a mailbox, empty mailbox that contains some already predefined folders, and I will send actually to myself attachment. We'll call that this attachment that I just shown you, and some message. Let's send it. We can see that we have in the mailbox inbox incoming mail with attached invoice. There are no folders like processed or error or whatever. Yes, but we will see that these folders will be created when we first run the process, because we will set up it this way. Now we will switch to FNO first and see that I have some time ago created a purchase order that I want to invoice. And information in the invoice actually matches the details of this purchase order. Let's go to regulatory configuration service. Here we have globalization features workspace, where you need to set up all the details to operate with electronic invoice submission process. I will not describe some details that are not directly related to this process right now, but let's go first directly to electronic invoicing features, globalization features, similar to what Gilberto demonstrated right now for Brazil. But what he did, he imported templates from global repo published by Microsoft. But in this scenario, we will create the globalization feature and corresponding pipelines from the scratch. So let's call this feature Fatura Pay process. For this feature, we had the first number of the version. We don't need in this scenario any configurations, ER configurations on the service side, because the only model mapping will be executed on the FNO side. But what we need to set up the integration collaboration with Mailbox and describe how the attachments will be retrieved and sent to FNO. So I'm adding a new setup that actually proposes you a few options. Email. I will call it Fatura email. And here are three types. The first one is a processing pipeline. A processing pipeline is the set of actions what I described to you, but in this context, processing pipeline serves only exporting scenarios when you submit any document from FNO and it must be processed. But when we listen external channels, we need to define either data channel or data channel and processing pipeline. The first one just takes the attachment from the mail and pass it to FNO. The next one can do additional steps or actions with the incoming document. I choose the first one because in this scenario, I need just to pass it over, and I have two predefined channels that we support right now, and we are working on extending this set of channels. Right now, I will work through incoming email, and click Create here. Going to the details, I see that there is some information in the data channel that is pre-populated and some information I should add. First of all, let's start with description of the channel, and we will provide channel name. This data channel name is important for using in FO, and I will show you the usage of this channel name. Then we can define username and secret. I keep my names and secrets in the key vault, and here I can refer to the key vault secrets that will automatically taken from the key vault during connecting to my mailbox. So in this scenario, I have for the name, I have email account key vault secret, and I keep password in key vault secret password. There are some additional parameters. One of them is main folder to look into for reading mail. It is inbox, and it is corresponds to the real mailbox. In archive folder, I will specify processing. This is a folder that will store successfully processed mails. So they will be moved from inbox to processing. And in error box will be moved all the invoices that are processed with some kind of errors. What is needed also here? Processing mode. We have two options, by attachment or by email. It means that if there are several attachments in the mail and you select here by attachment, each attachment will be considered as a separate electronic invoice that must be processed. If you select by email, it means that one electronic invoice or electronic document will correspond only to one email that comes. But if there are several attachments, they all will be linked and passed to FO for some kind of processing. For example, if you need to store and you receive PDF file with a document. Also, I need, in our case, I selected by attachment because I want just to retrieve the attachment. And here I need to specify what attachments I am interested in. I need to provide the name to each attachment and provide the filter. This name will be used also in FO to understand what to do with this particular file. And for example, if you have PDF as a second file, you should define it here, and then can be processed somehow separately in FO. So I save that, and then I should go to applicability rules. Applicability rules is a set of conditions that allows FO to understand allows FO to pass information describing what we want to do right now with the service. For example, if you submit some electronic document, you can define that it is generated in the particular legal entity for this particular customer, and then you can set up here in applicability rules the same fields or some other fields. And electronic invoicing service, when receives the call from FO, it will match as many lines of these rules with the incoming data as possible, and the most applicable feature with the applicable version will be considered as matched, and it will be executed. With this approach, you will be able to orchestrate different features for different legal entities. Or if you define your B2B communication using some EDI or whatever, you can define several features here and set up the applicability rules the way that, for example, for particular customer group, or some other conditions like types of the document, different processing pipelines will be executed and different conversion of the document will be done to like different formats. In our case, I want to provide information channel equals to fat mail. And as soon as in F&O there is a call to the service saying that I have such information, channel fat mail. In this case, service will choose this particular pipeline and will start listening to Mailbox. I click Save, click Validate. And here I see that action parameter mandatory value not set. And indeed, returning back to the setup, I see that I didn't define server address. This validation helps you to provide all mandatory fields. I define this server address that is needed for proper operation, save, and validation should show that it is successful. Okay. We have done the setup, and after that, I want to make sure that this version is completed. And now I will deploy it to the service to be sure that service can already operate with the incoming requests related to the particular feature. I publish that, and right now all this configuration is published. Then I go to purchase orders. To F&O, and there is a receive electronic document process. I know that right now my mail is inbox, and I want to run the request to the service. There are usually two requests sent to the service to get the file. And here I need to check what is happening with the file. We see that the file is moved from inbox to processing folder that is created. It means that the service is successfully got this email, and now it is processing already within the service. The next thing that I need to do is to pass the files from the service to F&O. I click that receive electronic documents once again, and we can actually see that this file will be processed by the service, and the details will be sent to F&O, and corresponding tables in F&O will be updated with pending vendor invoice information. Why we need two steps? Because the first one is pushing service to communicate with Outlook. The second is to retrieve the documents. And we see that there is a response that document successfully imported one. We can go to pending vendor invoices form, and we see that there is an invoice that is created for me today. This is exactly what I was expecting for. But also we can go to electronic document receipt log and see that right now it is my time. There is a record in the receipt log. I can go to details and see the details of this processing. I don't have processing actions because we didn't set up, but Gilberto showed you how to some examples of the details per each action. But we have here overall status that it is completed, that is good, and we have processing data. For example, the files that comes to as an attachment from email to the system, or for example, we can look at body of the mail and get the details because we keep this information. Here is an invoice that I was sending. How it looks like on in parameters in F&O. You probably seen these two main components that I referred to. Name of the channel. So here we say that F&O should call the service to check FAT mail channel. And to do that, there is a ER configuration that constructs this request. So if you need to do anything to change, you can just update or change this electronic reporting context. And here we have in definition of the file of the attachments that we are interested in. And if there are more attachments, all of them can be defined here, and you can do different actions with these files here on the F&O side. For XML file, we just applied electronic reporting model mapping that transforms this file from XML file, and not actually transforms, but saves information, matches information to database, and saves this to database. And the process of saving to database is described in the vendor invoice import configuration. So I demonstrated you setup and execution, as well as some parameters of F&O. And now I'm letting Gilberto to continue with his presentation.
Okay, just let me share my screen back. Okay, hope you can see my screen. So just moving forward for the final part of the session. So this is our roadmap, what we have ahead. So for 2021 wave 2 this year, we have planned for the electronic invoicing service the Italian SDI integration, which is going to be public preview. Indonesia, Saudi Arabia, and Mexico. And for 2022 wave 1, which is going to be beginning of next year, we plan the last mile non-out-of-box B2G invoicing via an ISV connector and Dataverse integration. So for last, so here there are some resources. We have plenty of documentation already available in Microsoft Docs. Here it's the link. And if you want to contact us, so you can send the email you can send your message to this email. And if you want, you please join the Yammer community that we have dedicated for electronic invoice, which is electronic invoicing service. Okay. So we have 2 minutes left for some question and answers.
I would read a couple of questions from the chat here, and let's start. We have 1 minute, and actually, okay, I see some question. Is it possible to send an automatic email to a customer telling you had just issued him/her an invoice? So there is a possibility to define automatically the customer address based on your customer in the file that is generated. This is done by means of retrieving customer information from that actually comes from F&O to electronic invoicing service. So we can send electronic emails, yeah, but we can send these emails right now to the predefined addresses. Exactly this period we are working on extending this functionality, and we have in our pipeline of next additional capabilities of the service, the possibility to send emails or redirect, for example, generated documents directly to the customers or to vendors or your partners. So right now, out of the box these days, you will not see this information, but who is interested with this capability, this functionality, please let us know directly through the mail that is available here. We don't have time to answer more questions, and we will be doing right now after we complete this call. Thank you very much. Gilberto, do you have anything else to present?
No. So thank you very much for your time, your participation, and your interest. So.
Okay. And thank you. I'm going to actually post a short survey link in the Q&A panel. If you could please find some time to participate, it'll just let us know what we did well today and what you'd like to see in future events. As a reminder, the recording for today's session will be available on the Tech Talks Community Dynamics page within 5 business days. I'd like to extend a big thank you to our presenters and, of course, you, the audience, for joining us today. This concludes today's event.